Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Cancer October 2022 monthly Miracle Message reading. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot, a place for you to better connect with and illuminate your own personal spiritual importance. So hi, everyone, and welcome. This reading is meant to take a look at a miracle that wants to come in for you this month from Spirit. This is I'm a big believer in miracles, both large and small. And we are going to take a look here at first pulling a card that's going to be kind of the compass point as to where Spirit would like you to, on a spiritual level, open your eyes and ears to the opportunity for a miracle to come into your experience. And this is an opportunity that's meant to really come in and help elevate some aspect of your experience where either A, you've been asking for a little help, or B, you've just really wanted something to kind of bring in a level of prosperity in this area, prosperity, growth, and elevation in some aspect of your life experience. So we're going to get this card here first. I'm going to read the main messages that come from the book that goes with this oracle deck. And then we're going to go ahead and pull some additional cards, some clarifiers, and get a little deeper into this message so that you have a kind of a clear line of sight as to where to really help open yourself up to receive the miracle that wants to come in for you, Cancer. So you have building blocks. It's interesting because another sign, I can't remember, I think it was Capricorn actually had this as well. And it's the number 28. And when you reduce that, 2 plus 8 in numerology, that reduces down to the number 10, further reducing down to the number 1. So there's a feeling here of really building on a previous foundation that you've already laid for yourself, but there's almost like an ending and a beginning wrapped up in that, meaning that perhaps now there might be a change in what you're building towards. I'm just looking at, didn't notice this when I was reading in the Capricorn reading, but it's an individual standing here on top where she has her kind of hand up over her head and she's looking, like peering out into the distance as to having kind of a farther line of sight now as to maybe now that she's built this platform, this sturdy foundation, and she climbs up on top of it, she's able to see something in the distance that she didn't see previously. So I'm getting this feeling, Cancer, is an element now of kind of having that moment of stepping back, kind of standing from the position of where you are now and not maybe where you had been when you first started building this foundation, to take a look and see if there's something now that is catching your eye that is going to help you continue to build, but build in a way that's more in alignment now with who you are currently. So let's go ahead and read the message that comes with this. Okay, so it says building blocks, essential meanings, strong foundations, a beautiful work in progress. The Oracle's message: you have everything you need to cultivate an extraordinary life. This is a time when your focus needs to be on the foundations you build upon. Your work, your relationships, and your very being are underwritten by your values, ethics, morals, and core beliefs. Are they still true for you? Will they stand the test of time and serve as the solid grounding upon which you construct your life? Now you are making changes that will affect everything in a positive way. Your destiny is truly a remarkable and beautiful design. And I like that. I like how it says, to take a look at the relationships and everything else in your life, the values, the ethics, morals, and the core beliefs, and really take a look at, do those still, and that's kind of what I was getting this feeling for here, is do they still, from this viewpoint, this new viewpoint you have, do they still stand? Are they still true for you? And if you need to make those changes, then this is a beautiful point to do that. Or if they do, and you can really see that now in the distance, you see the work ethic, you see how you've really built on your beliefs, well, now it's almost time to double down on that. So but I'm also going to read the prosperity message here because that's what we're really focusing on, is bringing in prosperity to a specific aspect of your experience. So it says, you have everything you need to turn iron into gold in the alchemical process of creating the prosperous life you desire. Now is the time to build on the strong foundation you have already laid for your prosperity. Keep in mind that these building blocks are imbued with the sparkling energy of your intentions. Own your dream and remember that you always have more than enough, and you always are enough, so abundance is ever present. Your creativity is divinely inspired, and the design for your life is taking shape in service to the world. You are meant for success. Very powerful message here, Cancer. And you know what, I'm thinking about it now, I do believe that this did come up for Capricorn. And what's interesting is that in the zodiac, Capricorn is your opposite sign. So there is something here about perhaps you guys are going through a similar experience, but from two different perspectives. Because Cancer, you are kind of the archetypal, like the mother archetype in the zodiac, and Capricorn is the father archetype. So there's this feeling here of maybe both of you, even if you don't have a Capricorn in your life, but there's an element of you guys kind of going through the same things, but perhaps from a different perspective. So keep that in mind. And if you do want to watch the Capricorn reading, or you do have a Capricorn in your life, you might want to watch their reading just to get an extra additional message out of it, or a different viewpoint, perspective. Okay, so now I'm going to pull 3 additional cards, and I'm going to pull clarifiers for each. So we're going to get a little deeper here into this message. So when we're thinking about where this miracle wants to come in for you, this miracle definitely wants to come in around the vision for yourself, what you want to build from this point forward. So there's been some aspect in your life where you've already laid a very strong foundation. Now, this could be in a relationship, it could be a family dynamic, it could be in a work environment. Maybe you have, a strong following in what you do for a living, but there's something here where you've built a strong foundation in some aspect of your experience. But now it's kind of that time where you get to have that momentary review of, okay, I've built the foundation, but before I build the rest of this, let me see what else is out there. Let me see if what I was going to build still fits. And possibly, maybe you might even see something now off in the distance that you're like, wow, that's bigger, that's better. I want that. Not what I originally was going for. I want that instead. And maybe it's time to take a journey away from the original foundation. There's something here around being able to see from a new perspective from where you are currently. So I'm going to pull a card now for the concept of curiosity. And this is where Spirit would like you to be open and curious as to where perhaps you might be blocking yourself from receiving this gift that wants to come in for you. This gift of, I think, really elevating, seeing something that might actually bring your dream a little closer and faster than you think. So let's go ahead. It might almost be for some of you, I'm just getting this intuitively, that it's like you're looking kind of now from this new perspective and you're thinking, gosh, I only have so much building materials. And suddenly you look off into the distance and you're like, wait a second, is that a whole, mill or farm that is just making all of these pieces? Can I just go over there and ask for more? There's something like that. Like you actually see that there's more of something out there for you. But it might have to mean that, again, you have to journey to it instead of kind of standing stationary. So let's see here. Where is Cancer potentially blocking themselves from receiving a miracle that wants to come in? And curiosity is truly a superpower. I am a big believer in utilizing curiosity, trying to keep it in mind at every given point throughout the day. But there's an element here with curiosity. We open ourselves up to the awe, the wonder, but we keep ourselves also forward focused in our life. We are curious and optimistic about kind of what's around the next bend. So we're always pulling ourselves forward. We're not kind of letting ourselves get stagnant. Okay, so we have walking away, number 27, breaking down to number 9, which is the closing out of a cycle. It's also all of the beautiful lessons learned. You get to glean those from this cycle and carry them forward into your next adventure, which is exactly what this girl is doing. So there is something here where I think for some of you, there's this element of you've built this foundation. The foundation was good to start. It probably was something that, again, maybe you were working towards building the foundation for a business or a career in a specific industry, or you were building a foundation for your family. You really wanted to save and you have a home of a certain level. But there's something now where you've come to a place where I think you're seeing a bigger picture. You're seeing something greater for yourself, and you're seeing that, unfortunately, it's not where you are currently. So it means that maybe this is seeing that you might have to move to another geographic location, or this is where now suddenly you realize, I thought this house that we built was going to be big enough and we need 4 more rooms, or maybe you did build a business and you built it in a specific way, but now there's maybe you can take the foundation, but turn it into something slightly different, or bring it into a different group of people, different environment, and still utilize what you've built, but now maybe grow it in a slightly different way. Maybe you had one intention of maybe marketing it to a specific audience, but now you're realizing, wait, there's a different audience that I'd like to go towards. But there is something here about having the need to walk away from something and perhaps not wanting to. There can be this fear of, but I've built so much here. If I go off over here to get more materials, or to get that bigger home, or to market myself in a different way, well, then what if I can't come back through these gates? What if I lose everything I've built? There's this element of kind of that fear of losing the security, the stability. But the one thing we have to learn in life is that growing pains can be uncomfortable. They can be scary, but they're also evidence, even within ourselves, that we are forever changing. Our experience is always changing and growing, and nothing is forever stable or certain. Even the strongest foundations with time can be washed away or eroded or crumble. So it's keeping that in mind, that you've built something, you've gained a certain level of knowledge, but there's something else that's kind of beckoning for you out there. And that when we get the courage to walk away from something with faith towards basically following where Spirit is calling us to go, there's that feeling of we're moving with change instead of kind of holding ourselves resistant to it. And eventually when we hold ourselves resistant to it, that's when the Tower comes in and it says, unfortunately, things, no matter how secure something is, this can be where you're worried about, maybe moving jobs or something like that. And then suddenly, because you didn't make the move when you were kind of feeling called to, all of a sudden your current place of business, closes up shop and you're left still having to do this, but having to deal with it in a slightly more dramatic way. So just keep that in mind. I think you're being asked to grow and I'm a Cancer rising, so I do understand a little bit of this energy coming through for sure. Yeah. 6 of Swords, moving on. That's transcendence. This is transcending. I always like to see this as transcending a limiting mindset, really moving on in a mental space to say, I'm capable of so much more. I see now that there's a level of growth that I'm ready to move into, and I'm going to have to walk away from something that perhaps I don't want to. I really like the garden I'm in, or I'm proud of what I've built, but there's something more that's calling to you now, something that's, again, when we think about miracles and trying to elevate an aspect of ourselves, that means forward movement. That means we have to be in that curious state of what we're going to find on the road ahead. And that generally brings in change of scenery, change in who we meet, change even in what we do. Okay, let's see if anything else wants to come out for that. Oh, yes, 10 of Coins. I knew that was going to come up. Okay, yeah. This is definitely around a long-term goal. The 10 of Coins is kind of that ultimate legacy that we'd like to see fulfilled in the physical for ourselves. This is that, that long-term goal of, I want to have the home in this location with the job that makes X amount of money, with the book that I eventually write. It's all the things that you want that are going to make your life manifestation feel like, wow, I've achieved everything I've ever wanted. And so there's a feeling here, though, with the 6 of Swords and the 10 of Coins, that perhaps for some of you, you might have to walk away from a previous version of this 10 of coins. That maybe there was, it's almost like having to move away from the loss of this, that maybe you were working towards something, again, building a foundation towards something specific, but now something in your experience from where you're standing has changed. And so there's this element of really, I think, in two ways, transcending your limiting mindset as to what you're actually, this can be where suddenly, you thought you were building, your 4-bedroom house in the perfect place in the country that you've always wanted to be. And then you realize, now that I built the foundation and we fleshed it all out and we're starting to move in the furniture, I'm looking down the way and I'm realizing, over the 2 years it took for us to build this isn't big enough. This isn't the end all to beat all. I would rather have a working farm with 55 acres and then suddenly you look over and you see that property on the hill down the way and you realize, oh my gosh, but that means I'm going to have to sell this place and walk away from it. But you're being called to something more, something greater. And the whole process of what you had to go through to get to this point is only going to allow you to very quickly elevate again to that point someplace else. So keep that in mind. There's something here around perhaps an original 10 of coins you were working towards that you kind of have to walk away from. That now it's all in an effort to elevate your experience in some way. So I think take a look at where you've been holding yourself back, where there's some aspect of your experience, or maybe you're kind of clinging to something. And this can be, and I know I'm a big proponent. I'm a big, I'm not gonna say proponent. I'm a big person who can be that person who can get very defensive and cling to things, because I do have a lot of fixed energy. I have a lot of fixed and a lot of mutable energy. So it's kind of strange. I have Taurus placement with my sun sign, and I have Taurus as my Mars placement. So I can be very slow, methodical. I like my routines, and I understand that feeling of wanting to kind of cling to something that is secure and safe. But then on the other side, there's this feeling of, but when we get that feeling, that call to more, and we realize we can do it, we are capable of that. We are capable of bringing that in for ourselves, that we really have to understand that no routine is ever going to be forever. And so there is that point of, if we can have faith and follow that call to more, there is something in that we are meant to be of service to, be that now we take our skill set with our original business into some other aspect where now it's meant to elevate and be of greater service to others in this other area. Or maybe this is, again, leaving the one home to elevate into a larger home because there's something more there that you're going to be able to tap into, whether it's the location and the people that you meet there, or whether it's actually just the space in and of itself and what you can create there. Like, for instance, if you were, let's say, going to, all of a sudden you want to have the farm, well, what can you create and grow on that farm that can then be of greater service to others outside of just owning a home? So there is that level of kind of, I think, having that broader picture for yourself and allowing yourself to really get into that place of, okay, take that deep breath. I'm going to walk out that gate, and, I'm going to realize that it's like this little glowing butterfly here. Spirit's with you. Spirit's guiding you. You wouldn't have had that vision from where you're standing now if Spirit wasn't trying to get your attention. Okay, so now I'm going to pull a card for the concept of courage. And this the message on this card is, where Spirit would like you to have the courage to really surrender yourself in this way so that you can then have the courage to take action. And here I think it's really to take action in seeing a bigger dream for yourself and realizing that you're capable of building more for yourself, and that you can walk away from something that you feel is a lot and it brings you a lot of safety and security, to level up in a way that perhaps even you are not quite, even you don't understand as of yet. So let's go ahead here and see, what does Cancer need to keep in mind around the concept of courage? Okay. Oh, interesting. So this is surrender to non-action. It says now is the time to be still and not act. Simply breathe and focus on your own power. Let others come to you. Very interesting. So, it feels, you're probably thinking, well, that's a really strange card to come up. It seems a little counterintuitive. But there's the other feeling here when you think about it with non-action. I like that it shows an individual with kind of a unicorn horn. It's almost like standing in your power, standing in that place of showing yourself, showing what you've built, showing the glory of who you are, standing on that platform. But realizing that, there is something when we're thinking about being curious and about where we're blocking ourselves from walking away from something, this may be the time to kind of slow down. To see the vision. And I think when we're thinking about, the main themes here, about a time of success, but a success built around the authentic you that stands now. What are your values? What are the realizations of what you're truly capable of? What have you learned about yourself to this point that perhaps has changed a little bit as to, what you see in your experience? And to really focus on that aspect of realizing we don't always have to push. Sometimes it's literally just a shift in perspective. Maybe she had been looking in the other direction and hadn't seen that farm on the hill. And so she would never have realized that awoke a dream in her heart. And instead, because she chose to kind of just slow down, maybe take the day off from actually building, and she looked around and said, wow, I've never really noticed all of the beautiful rolling hills in all directions. And I've never actually looked over, I've never faced south and seen that beautiful hill. And because I've taken the time to not, be so focused in building, that I've been able to stop and see at this certain point in the day the whole beautiful piece of property that before maybe was hidden. So there's something here around really realizing that getting curious about maybe where there is something you need to walk away from towards something that is greater for yourself, maybe a bigger challenge, but you can prepare yourself in a way where you kind of start to slow everything down. It's not taking on the additional burdens. It's not putting your head down and keep building so that you miss the miracle that Spirit is trying to kind of show you right now. That's almost like a doorway or portal to get to something faster and more in alignment with who you are. So we have the King of Cups coming in as a point of clarification. The King of Cups is someone who has mastered their emotions. He is the king of emotional maturity. He is able to go within. He feels his feelings. He understands the importance of them, but he is not overly swayed by them either. And he's someone who is, deeply intuitive and wise. This can actually be the spiritual advisor. So there is something here about really going within. You can see the individual has her eyes closed here, and he has his eyes closed as well. So there's this feeling of really going within and sitting with your emotional state and saying, what doesn't feel right about your experience currently? And when you kind of stop, there's the Eight of Swords, the I can'ts. This is the negative mental programming. So there is a feeling here of there is something within your experience that I think doesn't feel good. Or when you go within and you think about what you actually want versus what you're currently experiencing, there's something that needs to change. And that will involve some aspect of where you need to walk away. But often we can't get to this place of kind of quiet contemplation and getting really in touch with ourself, our intuition, through our emotions, until we kind of stop and we just are still. We sit there and it is like taking a day off and getting a lay of the land and saying, what are my real priorities here? What am I building? Why did I start to build this? And how does that why fit into my overarching why for my entire life, the meaning that I hold for the things that I do currently today? And that can only happen when we give ourselves that day to have that time off. And sometimes, when you think about it, we can be pushing and pushing and pushing and trying to do this and trying to keep this ball in the air and trying to keep that ball in the air. And then when we just stop and we just have that day to maybe sit back and you're like, I'm not going to do any tasks. In fact, I'm going to take the day off from work and I'm going to stay home and just play with the kids. Or, you know what, instead of going into work and answering those 110 emails that are facing me, I'm going to just, call off and cancel all the meetings that I had. I'm going to just close my laptop. And today I'm going to just sit back in my office and observe. Who am I working with? What am I doing? Or I'm going to sit today and I'm just going to go out into nature and just listen and just get back in touch with me, with the grounded reality of what is. And therein, I think, comes that moment of insight, because we don't always have to look external to us to see that dream beyond ourselves. Meaning she doesn't actually have to be standing on top of her house looking over the hillsides to see the future farm that she wants to have. It's more that this happens internally, where we have that momentary pause of reflection to realize, wow, I originally wanted to do all of this to spend more time with my kids. And today, when I'm taking time off from everything else and I'm having fun with the kids and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, this means a lot to me. In fact, spending the time with my children, I've realized, is more important at this point than is the 10-year goal to build a home for them versus me actually spending time with them. And that could then shift the realization of what you're actually working towards, or where you can actually prioritize your time and energy more, what would actually feel more like the 10 of coins for you. There's also the element too, for some of you, of you've kind of achieved already an element of success. You've achieved the 10 of coins you've been working for, but now it's time to level up from that point. Now it's time to take those 10 of coins and go back out into the world, because the 10 of coins is the end of a cycle. That is the ultimate fulfillment. But there's something more that you can do now with those 10 of coins. So there's something here around really allowing yourself to kind of take the day off from everything. Maybe it's taking the week off, or maybe it's just this month being more aware about what not to put on your extra on your plate, really kind of stepping back. And as you're doing all of your day-to-day tasks, start to kind of pare back. It's almost like, in a way, for any of you who have done one of those diets where you're trying to, the elimination diets, where you're trying to figure out kind of what is that thing that's making you, have a bad stomach reaction or a skin reaction, something along those lines, like where you're trying to figure out, what am I allergic to? Well, that's almost kind of like this. It's almost like taking one thing off your plate and saying, if I didn't have to deal with this, then where would I take that time and prioritize it? And then where would I take that time and prioritize it? And then where would I take, and it's like getting down to the core essence of who you are, of surrendering to that place of non-action, to see at the very base of who you are. Then if you can find that in yourself, like, this is me, this is what I offer, this is what I hold important, this is what I value, then I think it's going to allow you to have a breakthrough as to where you feel stuck. Because the Eight of Swords is, when I say, that limiting kind of mental programming that we have, the negative programming, it's where we've built ourselves up a maze, a labyrinth, where we enter the labyrinth in one place and we make all the same turns and we get right back to the start, to the dead end of, I want this, but if I do this, then I'm going to have to lose out on this. And then if I do this, then I'm going to have to risk this. And then if I do this, and I'd have to, and then it gets back to the no. And in reality, it's just a maze you've set up for yourself to basically protect yourself from seeing the truth of some aspect of where you need to make a change. So what you're doing this month is really kind of slowing down and allowing yourself to get to that place of true inner peace, to where you can say, but I really want this. This is what's important to me. And that's what's going to allow that beautiful doorway, that portal, to open up within yourself to see really where you want to build from this point forward, and possibly an opportunity that's waiting for you to kind of take it up. Whether this is, the person in the farm on that hill who's like, man, I've been waiting to sell, I just can't find the right seller. And suddenly you walk through the door and they're like, yeah, we've been wanting to sell for a long time, like, we're ready to make a deal. Or it's, you taking your book idea someplace else and suddenly somebody's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I am part of a bigger, organization. We'd love to buy, 1,500 units of this. And maybe no one's ever showed interest up until that point. But there's something here where it's time to maybe walk away from something to in faith, walk towards something that is more in alignment with who you are in this moment and what you value, what you truly value. Okay. And that's going to get you out of this place of feeling bound. So really, really slow down this month. The beauty is in the getting back in touch with you to see the inner vision. Okay. So I'm going to pull a final card here for the concept of contemplation. And this is where Spirit would like you. Oh my gosh, this is the third time this card has come up in these readings. Wow. So we're all kind of, I feel, going through this kind of freeing of ourselves, so unbound. And I like that this, really mirrors the same kind of image here, where there's a bound person, and these people are all bound, but they're cutting their cords, they're allowing themselves to transcend. So there's this feeling of releasing soul patterns, contracts, and past lives. And for some of you, that for those of you that do believe in past lives or soul contracts, yeah, there is this feeling that sometimes we do commit ourselves to something in another lifetime where we felt guilt, or we felt like we had to hold ourselves accountable for something in this lifetime. Now, for those of you who don't believe in, past lives and that kind and soul contracts, this can be literally where we've kind of sold ourselves into a contract out of guilt, because we wanted to be the first one in our family to do something, or we felt pressured to achieve in this area. And if we don't achieve in this area, then, we're going to be looked down on. Or maybe you feel that you have to support somebody when you actually don't. There's an element here of realizing that there's something around a contract or a soul pattern that needs to be released. And it can be even a work contract. This can be something where you can't, or when I'm thinking about even building a house, maybe you contracted to build this house and see it through. And now you're realizing maybe it's time to sell the idea. Or maybe it's time to, release one contract for a book and find another manager who can find, or an agent who can find you a better contract. There's something here around just realizing that at any point in time, we can release ourselves. We can free ourselves from something that we had originally committed ourselves to, what we were building here. But now we see something bigger and better, and that's fine. At any given point, we can shift, we can change, we can grow. And it's very easy to do that when we become aware of where we've kind of held ourselves back out of contractual agreements, out of guilt. This can come about by, feeling like you're the only one in your family that's been pushed to achieve something or earn something or support others. And this is saying, Cancer, it's about getting back to the magic that lies within you, getting to see an internal vision for something better, and having the faith to cut a cord around something you feel very tied to. Something that's been a tie to your legacy, I think. And now you're realizing that there's a part of your legacy you're going to have to release, but it's going to open you up to be able to bring in so much more. Okay, let's get a final point here. And then I'll pull one card for the energy of love after this. So let's see here. What does Cancer need to know about Unbound? Oh, I love it. Electric Eel Spirit, bring your ideas to life. Number 24, breaking down to the number 6, which is about working with others for a spiritual goal. It's about home and family life and love. So yeah, bring your ideas to life. What do you want? What do you see for yourself? What, when you slow everything down and you stop kind of the crazy rat race building and doing all of the little things and trying to take more on, what if you just stopped and took a look around and then took a look within and realized, what are those ideas you want to bring to life? And there's going to be an aha moment as to where you've been holding yourself back from something, from releasing something. Okay. And what's beautiful is when we transcend in a mental way our limitations, when we get past those fear points of, but I can't walk away from this, and what if I lose this? What if I worked so hard to obtain this? And it's saying, the more that we get into that place of transcending those fear-based thoughts on an internal level, the more our external environment expands. We're able to transcend the limitations we once were bound by. So this would be like saying, you know, I thought I could never move to a home that was this size because I've only been limiting myself to looking in my current geographic location. But now when I'm starting to realize, wow, no, I'm brave enough to go out and move to someplace I've never lived before. That's when suddenly the opportunities start to expand. And then it allows you to start to dream a new dream, a bigger dream, a dream that involves a new location and a bigger home and maybe a totally different lifestyle. Same with work. Maybe you've only limited yourself to say, like, I can only be in this market, or I can only play to this kind of audience. And suddenly you realize, well, wait, I might have a different audience coming through. I might be able to expand on that. But I might have to walk away maybe from my current, audience. Maybe if I have to kind of shut it down over here to bring it up again over here. So like how it says, keep an open mind. Your soulmate may differ from your usual type and expectations. Very interesting that this is coming through like that. So there's a feeling here, as a general message, to keep an open mind. That is really kind of what I'm seeing as a main theme point here. To keep an open mind as you're going within, to really say, what have you been missing about your current experience that perhaps you didn't even realize yourself until you slowed everything down? Like, what is not at the heart of everything not working? Is it that you're not paying enough attention to your children? Maybe you've been looking at your children as a way to, you're trying to like offload them so that you can continue to do all these other tasks, and you're realizing, wait a second, my priorities are totally flipped upside down. I should be doing everything to actually be able to prioritize spending time with my children, instead of trying to take on more on this side and trying to find ways to pass my children off to other people to raise or whatever. And I'm not going to obviously judge anybody for doing that, but I'm trying to give an example. So, or it could be the opposite, that maybe you've been staying home with your children and you're realizing, wow, I don't have to do everything on this level. In fact, actually, a great dream of mine is to be able to contribute back to my community through getting into a position of leadership. And that may mean that at this point in my current experience, that although I do have the wonderful home and the family and the time with my kids, there's a feeling now that it's time to elevate in another area of my life where I can utilize another aspect of my experience getting to this point that I didn't even realize I would have the capability of utilizing in that sense. Maybe I never thought about joining a community leadership type organization, something along those lines. So there's something here about getting to the core of who you are now and what you hold important. And that's going to, again, allow you to see something slightly different. And that's where that miracle is waiting to come in for you. And I do like that it says your soulmate may differ from your usual type and expectations, because this could also mean that there's somebody coming into your life now that is pushing you to grow. There might be, I like when it says, let others come to you with a surrender to non-action. There's this feeling here possibly that somebody might, as you're kind of slowing things down, as you're becoming more aware, self-aware, as you're starting to kind of show more of what you feel is important, there might be somebody that kind of comes in out of the blue that's like, hey, I'd love to invite you to this group, or I would, I've noticed you have, your 4 kids, and I've been looking for, a full-time nanny position. Is this something that you'd be interested in? There's just something around this where I think that there's going to be somebody attracted to you. And again, keep an open mind, because it might not be, this could be where maybe you've been, you only, again, associate with a specific group of people, and suddenly out of left field, somebody that you would normally have never thought would be interested in this comes in, and you're like, whoa, and that's kind of the shocking point. And this is, I think, where this whole miracle hinges. So I really wish you guys all a wonderful month of October that really involves a lot of rest and introspection, and a time of just realizing that something has to be released to allow for something much greater to come in for yourself. And you're capable of that, Cancer, because you're a Cancer. So keep that in mind. All right. For any of you who would like to book a personal reading or just learn more about the services I have to offer, you can visit my website and by clicking on the link in the description box below. Otherwise, I will see you all in November's monthly illumination reading by Cancer.